At number 10 today, we have Katt Williams. Katt Williams was able to escape being arrested after leading police on a motorbike chase in California. The star would find himself in some pretty hot water after he decided it was a good idea to drive his three-wheeled motorbike on a sidewalk, and this led police on a chase that was later called off to protect bystanders. When officers tried to stop Katt, he rode away and would then proceed to run several red lights while telling one officer that he wasn't going to stop. They had plans to present a felony arrest case to the district attorney's office for a possible prosecution case. However, nothing really came to light about the case as it was never filed. Katt's agent would then later come out to say that he wasn't aware of any of this incident and he declined to comment any further, which is a pretty smart move for an agent if you ask me. Are you guys enjoying this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And at number 9 today, we have Chris Brown. In 2016, Chris Brown was arrested by the Los Angeles Police Department. The singer would be charged after an hour-long standoff with police outside his home. Officers responded to a call that was placed around 3 a.m. from a woman seeking help inside the residence. In the interview, TMZ would later confirm the identity of the woman as Bailey Curran. Bailey would tell officers that Chris Brown had demanded that she leave his home in a really inappropriate way. When the officers arrived at 10 a.m., Chris would tell them that when you get the warrant or whatever you need to do, you're going to walk right up in here and you're going to see nothing. During the standoff, Chris would then throw a duffel bag out the window that contained substances and equipment, which resulted in the star to be arrested. At number 8 today, we have Mel Gibson. Back in 2006, TMZ reported that Mel Gibson was arrested. According to the 4-page report, Mel became agitated after he was stopped on the Pacific Coast Highway and was told he was going to be detained for driving under the influence. The actor would then begin to swear uncontrollably as the two stood next to the hood of the patrol car. The deputy would then ask Mel to get inside his car. However, when the deputy opened the passenger door, Mel Gibson would say, "I'm not going to get into your car," and decided to bolt to his car. Now, Mel didn't get far before the deputy was able to catch him and then proceeded to cuff him and put him in the car. Mel would then later come out with an apology about his behavior and said he was taking the necessary steps to ensure he would return to his health correctly. At number 7 today, we have Jake Lloyd. Star Wars actor Jake Lloyd was arrested following a high-speed chase that resulted in the star losing control of his car back in 2015. A released video would later show that when police tried to pull over Jake in South Carolina, he would try to escape and would venture into Colleton County, where local police had to take over the chase from there. When deputies attempted to pull over the vehicle started to pass other cars on a double yellow line at an increased speed. Jake was driving in a reckless manner and his behavior endangered the safety of the motoring public. Jake would then run the vehicle right off the right-hand side and drove through a fence. The road then ended and he continued to drive down a wooded area where he eventually collided with several trees. Jake was then later arrested by authorities and was charged with reckless driving, failure to stop, and driving without a driver's license. At number 6 today, we have OLB. Wu-Tang Clan rapper OLB was arrested after having a standoff with police who stopped his truck. OLB had just left the recording studio before the altercation broke out. Cops would say that OLB was in a truck with his cousin Frederick, and they pulled over the vehicle around 8:15 p.m. in Crowns Heights by the street crime unit for driving with no headlights on. Something would then discharge and police and OLB would start a standoff. OLB would then blame his cousin for the incident. However, no one could figure out the exact culprit at the time, so OLB was arrested. However, during this time, OLB's cousin would run from the van into a building. However, he would later be caught that night. Since OLB did decide to give up his cousin, he would later be released and would be treated as a witness for the crime. At number 5 today, we have James Brown. James Brown was sentenced to 6 years in prison after the star was caught with illegal equipment while trying to flee from police in a vehicle under the influence. The incident would start after James stormed into an insurance company building and waved the piece of equipment in the air while he complained that strangers were using his washroom. When police would finally arrive at the scene, James would then take them on a high-speed chase through Georgia and South Carolina. The star during the case would even proceed to ram police cars with his pickup truck. When police were finally able to blow out 2 of James's tires, he drove 6 miles on the rims before police were finally able to stop the vehicle and arrest the star. And at number 4 today, we have Randy Quaid. after Randy Quaid once tried to cross the border to escape law enforcement. Randy and his wife were wanted in Santa Barbara for failing to show up for a court hearing in 2010 for a burglary case. Initially, the two were found living in a home that wasn't theirs. In order to escape law enforcement, the two would then head to Canada in the hopes that they would cross the borders and escape the charges. However, Canada didn't want them, and in 2015, they would be arrested at the Vermont border while trying to sneak back into the United States. California then tried to extradite the couple back to the state. However, Vermont denied the process. And today, the warrants are still active for their arrest. And at number 3, we have Ezra Miller. Flash actor Ezra Miller has been making some pretty bizarre behavior over the last few years after committing a series of different crimes around the world. At the start of the summer, Ezra would be accused of trying to hide from law enforcement after they tried to serve Ezra a protective order from the parents of an 18-year-old activist. Another order would then be served, and Miller would then be arrested and accused of stealing 7 bottles from a Vermont home. Since Ezra has chosen to get the help to save his career and to help him get the help he needs to put an end to his bizarre behavior. And number 2, we have O.J. Simpson. The O.J. Simpson trial was a verdict that stunned the nation after O.J. Simpson was found not guilty for the reasons surrounding the passing of his wife and her friend. In 1994, 5 days after the crime was found, an arrest warrant would be issued to O.J. Simpson. However, before they would find O.J., his lawyer Robert Kardashian would read a troubling note. Just over an hour later, the police were finally able to track down O.J. in the interstate while he was traveling in the back of his friend's white Ford Bronco. O.J. would be captured on video for the whole world to watch as he tried to escape from police for 45 minutes. O.J. would then later drive home and would be taken into custody. And at number 1 today, we have Roman Polanski. For 31 years, Roman lived as the world's most celebrated fugitive. After admitting to having inappropriate relationships with a child, Roman would flee America. However, in 2009, past would finally catch up to Roman, and in 1977, Roman would plead guilty for the charges when he was released on bail, and the star would flee the US a year later and would live in exile, refusing to return to the US even when he won an Oscar back in 2002. However, when Roman did decide to travel to Switzerland to accept a Lifetime Achievement Award, police would arrest Roman and would begin the process to extradite him back to the United States.
Number 10, Kissed a Fan. This one is slightly worse, but it's still a bit of a gray area. It was all captured on video in 2017 at a San Diego Comic-Con event when Miller asked fans why their character The Flash would have trouble getting drunk. Someone in the crowd correctly answered that Flash's metabolic rate makes getting tipsy very difficult because it's just so fast. But when another fan jokingly asked Miller to smell their breath just to be sure, Miller responded by kissing the fan on the mouth, planting a big fat kiss on the man's lips without clear consent. The trouble is that Miller seemed pretty wasted in the video, and that's why fans asked if they were drunk in the first place. During the kiss, the crowd cheered and the man was left absolutely stunned as Miller continued to repeatedly kiss his face when asked, quote, "How did it smell?" before walking away. Some people say that the kiss looked consensual based on the fan's non-verbal cues, but he might have just stood still because he was shocked. Number 9, charged with possession. When talking about all of Miller's controversies, it's only fair that we start off a little tame. This one could easily go down as a harmless teenage mistake with all things considered. What happened exactly? Well, in June of 2011, Miller was a passenger in a vehicle that got pulled over for a broken brake light in Pittsburgh while shooting Perks of Being a Wallflower. And no, none of their co-stars were with them at the time, not even Emma Watson. Police found 20 grams of a leafy green substance on Miller, and the then 18-year-old was charged with possession. The judge was very lenient, however, and after giving them a lecture about influencing the younger cast members on set, he dropped the case altogether. The actor instead faced 2 citations of disorderly conduct and was ordered to pay $600. But it's clear Miller wasn't sorry, as they then went on to tell New York Magazine, quote, "It's a harmless herbal substance that increases sensory appreciation." Number 8, music theft. 2 musicians have accused Ezra Miller of stealing music they worked on and releasing it without giving them credit. Music producer Oliver Ignatius and rapper Guys Guevara claim the actor stole the music they worked on and posted it to social media without credits. Ignatius met up with Miller in both the Northeast and Hawaii to collaborate on new music, but soon realized that they, quote, "seemed to be on a very dangerous spiral," and said that working with the actor felt like pulling teeth. In fact, Ignatius called their behavior a atrocious, belligerent, threatening, and incredibly aggressive. Also claiming that Miller threw an aggressive temper tantrum because they didn't agree that violence against women was worth singing about. Talk about red flags. But after Ignatius quit the project, Miller then posted the unfinished music online, including songs that they had not worked on at all. Now, Ignatius plans to file a court order for Miller to take the music down. Number 7. Idealizes violence. In 2011, the star took the role of a teenage school in We Need to Talk About Kevin. Dubbed as one of the most controversial movies ever made, Miller went very deep into the role of a sociopath, and the ultimate result was a portrayal so unsettling that they even said it bothered some of their friends. Quote, "I do get a certain kind of validation and gratification from the way people will sort of approach me tentatively, with a little bit of fear after they see the film. This admission by itself is not that strange, but it really becomes a red flag when we look at Miller's interview with Vogue several years later, where they asked the writer if she would like to see the crossbow that their character used to attack several classmates in the same film. They apparently keep the crossbow in their house. It's worth noting that the actor is also a huge supporter of the right to bear arms and has said that they don't have a problem with people owning semi-automatic weapons. Quote, "People need to protect themselves." Number 6. Choked a woman. This is exactly what it sounds like. In a since deleted tweet, a disturbing video shows Miller choking a woman at a bar in Iceland. The incident took place after Miller was approached by a group of eager young fans who were just excited to have spotted the actor. But the interaction escalated when Miller lost his temper at the young woman shown in the video. In the short clip, they could be heard asking, quote, "Oh, you wanna fight? That's what you want to do?" The woman, who was clearly confused, prepared to fight them in a joking manner, but Miller then attacked the girl by grabbing her by the throat and throwing her to the ground. The whole incident was rather uncomfortable to watch because it's clear that she was only playing around, but Miller was dead serious. The person filming the video could then be heard saying, "Whoa, bro," before the video cuts off abruptly. According to a witness at the bar, Miller was then escorted off the premises by staff. Number 5. First arrest in Hawaii. Ezra Miller's presence is becoming more of an imminent threat to the people of Hawaii than active volcanoes. Their first offense on the island came last month when they were arrested for disorderly conduct and harassment after an alleged incident at a popular Hawaiian night spot. They were arrested after South Hilo officers responded to reports of a disorderly bar patron. Police alleged that Miller had become agitated while other patrons were singing a karaoke rendition of "Shallow" from A Star Is Born and began yelling obscenities. Miller then grabbed the microphone from 23-year-old woman singing karaoke and later lunged at a 32-year-old man playing darts. The bar owner allegedly asked Miller to calm down several times, to no avail. After being arrested and charged on offenses of disorderly conduct and harassment, Miller paid the meager $500 bond and was released from custody. Number 4. Restraining order. After the incident at the bar, you would think Miller has disturbed the peace enough, but when they returned back to the hostel they were staying at, they decided to threaten the couple who lived there. The Hawaiian residents alleged that Miller returned home with a vengeance, burst into the couple's bedroom and screamed, "I will bury you and your wife." The petition alleges that Miller stole the wife's passport and the husband's wallet, which contains his credit cards, social security card, and driver's license. It's unclear whether the items were ever returned. The couple eventually decided they had had enough of Miller's behavior at the hostel and filed a restraining order against the actor. They asked the court to order Miller not to contact them in any form and stay away from their home and places of work. A judge grants the couple the restraining order the following day. Clearly, they weren't going to put up with Miller's anger issues anymore. Number 3. Second arrest in Hawaii. Just 1 month after their arrest for disorderly conduct and harassment, the Flash star found themselves in trouble with the law on the island again this week. This time, their arrest came for second-degree assault after an incident at the residence. At a residence. Officials say Miller became irate after being asked to leave a gathering and threw a chair, which struck a 26-year-old woman on the head, leaving a half-inch cut. Miller was arrested at 1:30 a.m. during a traffic stop and was released from custody at around 4:05 a.m. An investigation into the incident is currently ongoing. The chair incident was more than a red flag, it actually marks a disturbing pattern we're starting to see here when it comes to Miller and violence against women, and it only gets worse from here. Number 2. Allegations of Last week, the parents of 18-year-old activist Gibson Iron Eyes, formerly known as Dakota, accused Miller of their child. According to the Los Angeles Times, the parents of the 18-year-old Gibson Ionized were granted a protective order against the actor, accusing them of physically and emotionally harming the teen and behavior. Parents Chase Ionized and Sarah Jumping Eagle had their interim order of protection for their daughter approved by a judge, which says that Miller cannot contact the family or be within 100 yards of the residence. The parents accused the star of psychologically manipulating, physically intimidating, and endangering the safety and welfare of their child. Most troublingly, Miller and Gibson first met when they were 23 and 12 respectively, at the Standing Rock Reservation during the 2016 political action to stop the Dakota Pipeline. Creepy would be an understatement. And coming in at number 1, allegations of kidnapping. 18-year-old Gibson, who according to tribal regulations is still under the care of their parents, as they are still considered to be their legal guardians, is believed to be somewhere with Miller at this time, but authorities cannot locate either one of them, and their whereabouts are currently unknown. In an interview with People, Sarah says that she has only spoken with Gibson 3 times since February, and felt that the phone call was being monitored and interrupted by Miller. She said that Gibson sounded robotic over the phone and said, quote, "Our daughter's basically brainwashed." This lines up with the family's previous allegation that Miller has exhibited behavior in a pattern of corrupting a minor and was secretly supplying Gibson with alcohol and other substances. The parents also say that Miller pressured Gibson to drop out of school, and when they flew to Vermont in January to check on them, their child had bruises on their body and was not in possession of their own driver's license, car keys, or bank card.
And at number 10, Drew Barrymore feud. Drew Barrymore and Ellen seem like similar people on the surface, but behind the scenes there is tons of tension, and they are no longer friendly after a big falling out. The two worked alongside each other on a new NBC show called First Dates. Ellen was a producer while Drew was the host, and almost immediately tension started when they had different views on the project. The show was described by the network as a groundbreaking series that would explore all of the simple wonders of a first date. Apparently Ellen expected to be the one calling the shots, but Drew believed she should have creative control because she was the movie star the people were tuning in to see. The show ended after 1 season, so they didn't have to work alongside each other for long, but it's still a touchy subject. And at number 9, terrible ratings. After everything that happened with Ellen's cancellation in 2020, she thought she would come back on air for her 18th season with an apology and it would all be fine, but that was not the case, and many fans did not accept her lame apology. After a few shows, it was clear that the scandal lost her a large portion of her audience and her ratings were tanking. Apparently over 1/3 of her loyal viewers had stopped watching, which started to become a huge concern for the TV execs. Part of the reason why was that she didn't have A-list guests on her show. There was a rumor that the show was struggling to book high-caliber stars because they didn't want to be seen on her show. After the dismal start, Ellen announced that this season would be her last and she will not be coming back on air for next season. Many think she wanted to quit before she was fired. And at number 8, a photo with George W. Bush. Before her main scandal of having a toxic workplace, Ellen was exposed for being friends with former Republican President George W. Bush. Many felt that since Ellen is a vocal Democrat, there's no way she could be friends with someone who holds such different views from hers. Former President Bush was photographed laughing with DeGeneres in autumn of 2019 at an NFL match between the Dallas Cowboys and Green Bay Packers. After a photo of them together went viral, Ellen spoke on her show and tried to set the record straight, telling her audience, quote, "Here's the thing, I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs I have. We're all different, and I think we've forgotten that that's okay, that we're all different. When I say be kind to one another, I don't only mean the people who think the same way that you do." The reaction was very controversial. And at number 7, former bodyguard. After many people came out revealing personal experiences that they had with Ellen, a bodyguard that worked for her at the 2014 Oscars exposed that he had a terrible time working with her that night. Tom Majikak was hired to protect DeGeneres, her mother, and her wife Portia de Rossi as they attended the 86th Academy Awards, which Ellen was hosting. But apparently the experience was very demeaning. He told Fox News, quote, "I'm holding their hands and walking them through individuals and large groups of people. Ellen is the one person that I've been assigned to, and I've been assigned to quite a few celebrities in the past, that has never taken the time to say hi to me." The bodyguard said that Ellen's wife, Portia de Rossi, was very pleasant and kind, and it was really just Ellen that was rude. Adding, quote, "It was very cold and it was very sly, and it was actually kind of demeaning in a way that she treats people other than those who are in her circle." And at number 6, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin is known for getting in feuds with other celebrities, and thankfully she does not hold anything back when exposing how terrible other celebrities can be. Her feud with Ellen has gone on so long that she even trashed Ellen in her book. Griffin even claims she is banned from Ellen's Ellen's talk show because of their beef. In Kathy Griffin's book, she said, quote, "I'm almost positive a certain beloved daytime talk show host once had me kicked out of a backstage dressing room at the Emmy Awards." When describing what this person looked like, Griffin continued, quote, "This person who has short blonde hair has a mean streak that all of Hollywood knows about." Funny enough, the feud started back in 2007 because Griffin did a comedy set where she joked about how mean that Ellen really was. Clearly some foreshadowing. Halfway number 5, Steve Jobs. Thankfully, Ellen and Steve Jobs never got into a feud, I guess that we know of, but she did show Jobs just how entitled that she was. A former producer for Ellen's show said that the host once called Steve Jobs to complain about the font sizes on iPhones. Apparently, Ellen lost her glasses and wasn't able to read a text on her phone, and she blamed the phone for that issue. The producer added, quote, "She stopped everything and made a call. Next thing we know, we literally hear Steve Jobs pick up and say, 'Hi, Ellen.' Ellen told him the iPhone should have a bigger font." The producer added that she's not an evil person, however she is incredibly privileged and doesn't realize that her behavior is not normal. The producer added, quote, "It's not that she's some demon, she just lives in an incredibly privileged bubble and is out of touch with the real world." I wonder what Steve Jobs thought about that call. And at number 4, Brad Garrett. Ellen is beloved by celebrities, so back when she was in the midst of her scandal, very few celebrities had the guts to speak out against her. Thankfully, Everybody Loves Raymond star Brad Garrett shared the truth with his fans. Garrett posted a link to an article discussing the Ellen scandal, and he agreed with the article, claiming her mistreatment of employees was common knowledge. He wrote, quote, "Sorry, but it comes from the top, the Ellen show. No more than one who were treated horribly by her. Common knowledge." Then Back to the Future star Leah Thompson agreed, responding to a tweet from People magazine about Garrett's comment, writing, quote, "True story it is." And at number 3, stole from charity. If you've seen Ellen's show, you know she likes to give stuff away to her audience. But one time she gave away lottery tickets that were supposed to go towards children's education, and a lot of people were angry. In 1984, California voters approved the state lottery with an understanding that 34% of sales revenue would go towards education, so it was a net good for society. However, on one episode of her show, she gave each audience member $500 worth of these lottery tickets. One whistleblower for the lottery company came forward after, saying the tickets were worth over $200,000. And someone should cover the cost so the proceeds still go to children as intended. Hopefully the show made a big donation after that episode. And at number 2, exposed Mariah Carey. During Ellen's cancellation in 2020, this was a clip that went completely viral because Ellen was using disturbing tactics to get the inside scoop on if Mariah Carey was pregnant or not. Back in 2008, when Mariah Carey came on the Ellen show, there had been rumors circulating that Mariah may be pregnant. However, instead of respecting her wishes to not mention these rumors or further speculate, Ellen forced her to address it on air. After Mariah would not give her a straight answer on her pregnancy, Ellen decided to bring out some champagne for the ladies. This put Mariah in an impossible position, because if she didn't drink, everyone would know she was pregnant. Despite all of Mariah's refusing to take part in Ellen's game, she was eventually backed into a corner. Mariah then took a small sip from the glass. That prompted Ellen to start shouting that Mariah is pregnant. It turned out that Mariah was pregnant, but sadly, she would have a miscarriage just a few days later. And finally, at number 1, Trisha Paytas. Trisha Paytas has had a ton of experiences with celebrities during her time in Hollywood. Before she became a well-known YouTuber, she decided to go on the Ellen show to show off her talents for speed reading. It was back in 2010 when Trish was only 22 and was very new to the industry. Paytas spoke about her 2010 appearance on the Ellen show during an episode of her podcast Frenemies, which she hosted with H3's Ethan Klein, calling controversial help. In that episode, she called Ellen a bitch and said that she wasn't allowed to touch her or look Ellen in the eye. Trish continued on the show, quote, "When all that stuff started coming out about Ellen, I was like, that makes sense because she was so awful. Literally would not talk. They tell you, don't look her in the eyes, don't touch her." And since Trish had a first-hand experience with her, we know it's true.
At number 10, Taylor Swift. Back in 2016, Kanye released a song called Famous that featured a lyric involving Taylor Swift that turned out to be quite controversial. Kanye's lyric essentially claimed that he and Taylor would have an intimate relationship because he made her famous. The fame in reference being to the VMA scandal. Remember that? Long time ago. Still in our memories. When the song was first released, Kanye said that he called Taylor before dropping the song to make sure that the lyric was okay and said it got her approval, but later Taylor's publicist came out to say that she was never made aware of the lyric, saying that he made her famous. After Kanye was called out for lying, Kim K came out saying that she recorded the whole conversation and it showed that Taylor was actually made aware of the song, and so Taylor was called out for lying instead. Finally, a new chapter has come out which reveals that Kanye never disclosed the entire lyric to Taylor, and so that's why she called him out. This back and forth between Taylor and Kanye basically ended up with Taylor exposing the rapper for lying and warning us about the lengths that he and his wife will go to save their asses, even if they're wrong. At number 9, Chris Evans. I'm sure we're all familiar with Kanye's support for Donald Trump, at least before he decided to run for president himself. Kanye was seen sporting a MAGA hat in 2018 in a post on Twitter, followed by a tweet where he said, quote, "This represents good and America becoming whole again. We will no longer outsource to other countries. We build factories here in America and create jobs. We will provide jobs for all who are free from prisons as we abolish the 13th Amendment. Message sent with love," end quote. Well, after Chris Evans saw this and had to speak up. Denouncing Kanye's political beliefs and ideals, Chris tweeted a reply to the rapper's tweet where he said, quote, "There's nothing more maddening than debating someone who doesn't know history, doesn't read books, and frames their myopia as a virtue. The level of unapologetic conjecture I've encountered lately isn't just frustrating, it's retrogressive, unprecedented, and absolutely terrifying." Chris essentially warned us about Kanye's political beliefs as he called them absolutely terrifying, which they were, seeing as Kanye said that he wanted to abolish the amendment, which abolished slavery. If you guys are enjoying the video so far, please consider giving it a thumbs up. We love seeing your positive feedback and it really helps out the channel. At number 8, John Legend. After another Twitter rampage about how much he supported Donald Trump, Kanye was getting some backlash from celebrities like Ice-T and Stephen Colbert, as well as John Legend. In a series of tweets from the singer, John spoke about how there are too many people in the world to ignore the presence of racism in society, seemingly pointing the finger at Kanye and his support of Trump's MAGA campaign. John went on to say, quote, "I love that great, brilliant artists have the power to imagine a better future, but artists can't be blind to the truth," and ending his Twitter speech by saying, quote, "The defining trait of Trump's campaign and political profile was his embrace of white supremacy. He made it clear every time he spoke, some serious cognitive dissonance to ignore that for the others who you might find appealing," end quote. John seemingly condemned Kanye's support of Trump and how he was essentially fighting against the lives of so many Black Americans, and warned his fans about how dangerous this mindset can be. At number 7, Kim Kardashian. This summer, as Kanye West went on a Twitter rant about his wife Kim, mother-in-law Kris, and even his kids, all eyes were on him and his family because of some of the things he was saying. It was believed that Kanye was suffering from some sort of manic episode as a result of his bipolar disorder. Kim Kardashian released a statement to address his recent online behavior where she said, quote, "He is a brilliant but complicated person who, on top of the pressures of being an artist and a Black man who experienced the painful loss of his mother, has to deal with the pressure and isolation that is heightened by his bipolar disorder. Those who are close with Kanye know his heart and understand his words sometimes do not align with his intentions," end quote. Her statement about her husband's mental health was sort of a heads up to fans as well as the media that Kanye was experiencing a lot at this time and that his actions are sometimes taken out of hand because of his mental illness. It wasn't necessarily a warning, but more so some important information about the rapper as to not judge him too harshly. Kim's statement told us that he has this trouble sometimes and that we should be patient with him at times like these. At number 6, Kris Jenner. Back in 2016, after a bout of controversial tweeting and public scandals, Kris Jenner warned her kids to stay away from Kanye. 2016 was a tumultuous year for the rapper as he got into a number of Twitter beefs and was even hospitalized for a psychiatric emergency. Well, in an effort to distance her family from Kanye's drama, she advised her youngest daughters, Kendall and Kylie, to stay away from him and to not trust him. An insider told sources that, quote, "Kris has advised her daughters to not discuss any upcoming business opportunities or deals with Kanye, saying the less he knows, the better." Kris was afraid that Kanye would try and make Kendall and Kylie doubt their business deals, make them feel guilty about their decisions, and give them bad advice. One of the reasons why Kris was so adamant about keeping her daughter's business away from Kanye is because earlier that year the rapper went on a Twitter rant about Kylie and her potential business deal with the brand Puma, where he said, quote, "1000% there will never be a Kylie Puma anything. That's on my family. 1000% Kylie is on Yeezy team." Kylie's partnership with the brand was almost ruined because of this, and so Mama Kris made sure that it would never happen again. At number 5, Lorde. In 2018, singer Lorde accused Kanye West of stealing her stage design. This was in response to a stage design that Kanye and Kid Cudi used for a performance at a music festival that summer that was pretty much identical to what Lorde used at her 2017 Coachella performance. The performers used an identical transparent box suspended over the stage as a focal point for their concerts, and Lorde was not having it. Lorde spoke out about Kanye's creative theft, saying, quote, "I'm proud of the work I do, and it's flattering when other artists feel inspired by it to the extent that they choose to try it on themselves, but don't steal, not from women or anyone else, not in 2018 or ever," end quote. She warned him against stealing, but also seemingly warned other artists about his stealing since this wasn't a new thing for Kanye. In the past, he's also been accused of similar plagiarism from 9 Inch Nails, and Taylor Swift has also commented on his stage design in her song Look What You Made Me Do. At number 4, Obama. Shortly after Kanye announced in 2015 that he would be running for president in 2020, then President Barack Obama had some thoughts on the matter. While speaking at a fundraising event, Obama poked fun at Kanye's presidential dreams, where he gave him some advice, like telling him he needs to, quote, be cool with dealing with strange characters who behave like they're on a reality TV show, an obvious reference to Keeping Up with the Kardashians. He also poked fun at Kanye's outspoken nature in reference to his Twitter rampages, as well as his background of being a, quote, black guy from the south side of Chicago with a funny name. Though it was all supposed to be jokes, there was also a message behind Obama's bit which sort of warned the American people against voting for someone like Kanye, because he can't be taken seriously, especially in the world of politics. We saw this over this past summer at his campaign rally where things got out of hand, so maybe Obama was right. At number 3, Amber Rose. In October 2020, Kanye's ex Amber Rose came out in an interview accusing the rapper of bullying her for the past 10 years. She spoke out about her experience dating Kanye for 2 years, calling him a narcissist, and talking about how he's been speaking badly about her publicly for the past decade. She warned others about getting too close to the rapper, saying that unlike her, he has no compassion and attacks people. Going on to reference how he said he needed 30 showers after being with her, she called him out on that, inferring that this was not his mindset back when they were together, and saying that he, quote, says things to make his wife more comfortable. The interview sort of pulls back the curtains on their relationship and shows how Amber has been dealing with it since they broke up in 2010. The fact that even though they've been apart for 10 years, she still gets bullied by him shows that Kanye has a mean side, and by coming forward about this, she's warning other people about getting too cozy with Kanye. Knowing this, it will be interesting to see what Kim might say after they get divorced. At number 2, Drake. In 2018, Drake called Kanye out for backstabbing and betraying his trust, and he warned others about Kanye's schemes to use others for his own gain. In an interview, Drake spoke out about his beef with Kanye and how Kanye leaked some of his personal information, as well as being used by Kanye to make his album. Drake said that Kanye invited him to Wyoming, where he convinced Drake to tell him some stuff about one of his upcoming albums. They bonded, and Kanye gave Drake the song Lift Yourself, which he later released himself. Drake also told Kanye about his then secret son, Adonis. When rapper Pusha T released a song accusing Drake of not writing his own songs, he felt hurt and blamed Kanye for this leak, and when he pushed back, another song was released telling the story about Drake's son. This information was given to Kanye in secret, so he knew that he'd been betrayed. Now he and other artists know better than to trust Kanye. And at number 1, Kanye. This one might be a bit of a stretch, but just go with me on this one. I believe Kanye has been warning us about himself. Over the years, he's written songs that essentially paint him as someone with a god complex and a natural-born leader. Years ago, we would have thought that this meant that he thinks he's better than everyone else and that his music is superior. He and some fans see him as a pioneering force in the rap world, so maybe this thought came about because of the imagery that he created with his music, painting himself as such a lively force. But now, I think he's been warning us of something much bigger. Kanye knew that he was destined for greatness, but we didn't know what his plans were until now. He has his sights set on the White House, and what bigger title is there in America than president, the ultimate leader? Kanye tried running in 2020 and will try again in 2024, so maybe this is what he's been warning us about all this time, of talking himself up. He's called himself the new Moses and says that he will lead his people out of the struggle. He's advocating for musicians owning their rights to their music, so maybe this is just the beginning of Kanye really acting on the leadership role that he's been hyping up for so long.